Let's create a new project for this module. I want to create an ASP.NET web application, and I want to call this PerfSurf. Because here's the ultimate goal. I want to be able to stream performance counters from the Windows server down to the client and display the numbers in a nice pretty graph, some sort of chart that can scroll along and show how much processor is being used. That's a good use of SignalR to stream real-time data. So I'll create this as an MVC application. I do want to change the authentication over to be Windows authentication. We haven't seen a project like this yet, but it might be a good idea that if I'm going to expose performance data from my server, that I only expose it to users who might be in the administrators group. So they will have to log in with their Windows credentials, either a local account on the server, or if the server's joined to a domain with some domain credentials, that's the type of thing that I can do with Windows authentication. When I create this project, SignalR will not be added automatically. Instead, I'll need to come into the Package Manager console and install package Microsoft.ASP.NET.SignalR, and that will bring in a number of dependencies. When it's all finished, it will have installed all of the server components and all of the client components in JavaScript that I will need to create a SignalR application. It also opens up a README file here in the editor, and I can see that in order for SignalR to run, I need to configure some OWYN middleware. We've seen a startup class like this now many times. However, in this project, there is no existing startup class. That's because we're using Windows authentication, and that's a feature that is just built into IAS. There's no special middleware needed for Windows authentication to work. Other projects we created used individual user accounts, which allowed users to log in with Google or with a local account that was stored in SQL Server. That required some existing OWYN middleware that was configured into those applications using an existing startup class. If I had an existing startup class, I would need to add app.mapSignalR to it. In this project, I need to create the startup class also. So add a class at the root of the project, call it startup.cs, and inside of startup.cs, just paste that little bit of code to map SignalR. That puts SignalR in the pipeline, and it can begin to listen for requests. I do need to bring in the OWYN namespace for iAppBuilder to be recognized, and now OWYN would be up and running on the server, so clients could connect. But what do they connect to? Well, if you remember from the slide, I need to create a hub for clients to connect to. And I think I will put my hub inside of a folder called hubs. Just in case I want to add some additional hubs, I'll make that plural. And to add a hub, I can just add a class, and now there is a template for a SignalR hub. Under web, you'll find a SignalR node, and there's two types of classes here. The hub class, which is what I'm going to use, also a persistent connection class. The hub class is a much higher level of abstraction, very easy to work with. If you want to work with connections at a lower level, try out the persistent connection class, but I will use a hub class, and I will call it perfhub.cs, and add that to the project. What I get is a class that is derived from the SignalR hub class. The hub class provides properties for me like clients. Clients.all would represent all of the clients that have connected to this hub. When I say clients.all.hello, that's saying please go to each client that is connected and invoke a JavaScript function on the client called hello. I can even pass that function some data. And there's all sorts of different ways to work with clients. You can put them into groups. You can send messages to all clients except some specific clients that you've identified that you don't want the message to go to. But we'll see this as we move forward. Right now I have a hub that clients can connect to. This hub has a hello method that when invoked will send out a string hi to all clients that have connected. It'll send that through their hello method. And it looks like we're building the beginnings of a chat application where people just say hi to each other. And that is one of the canonical demonstrations of SignalR, to build a chat application where one person types in a browser window and sends a message. It appears to everyone else that is connected. We can build that first. It's very simple. I think the home page of the application, which would be the index view, would be a good place to add that functionality just to see if we have something working with SignalR. I'll remove all the existing markup, and let's just put a header in here, SignalR demo. And then to use SignalR on this page, I'm going to need some scripts. One of the scripts I will need is the jQuery.signalr script. So I will drag that into this section. That was installed by the SignalR NuGet package. It is a jQuery plugin, so it does have a dependency on jQuery. Fortunately, the layout view already renders jQuery in a bundle. We've seen this before. At the bottom of the view, render jQuery, the jQuery bundle, render the Bootstrap JavaScript file here, and then render a section called scripts, which is what I'm using in the index view to place any custom scripts that I need for this page right at the bottom. I could certainly bundle them up together and render them here. I could even include them in the layout view if I wanted to, but chances are Signal R won't be used on every page in the application, at least not in this application. But I need Signal R. I'm also going to need to write my own JavaScript code, so I will go ahead and create a perfsurf.js file. This is another file that I want to be on this page. And we are going to have to come back and add another script here. Right after I've included Signal R, there's another piece of Signal R infrastructure that I need, but we'll get to that. And then one more script, which is currently not here. I want to use Knockout. So I'm going to install the package Knockout.js. If you've used Knockout before, you know that it provides client-side data binding. That's going to make building out some features of this application a bit easier. So I will include Knockout for data binding. And now, before I start building out chat features, let me just run the application, make sure everything is up and working. Since I'm using Chrome, I will probably be prompted to log in with my Windows credentials. And if I log in, I do see the application appears to be running. I do see that the application has established my identity, and I did have to log in and do that because in a Windows application, there's no anonymous users by default. You must log in with some Windows credentials in order to be able to access the site. And now we have a good starting point to build the chat features.